Hi, this is Rachelle at Scrapcraftastic, and I am going to be working on a journal. This will probably be a multiple video project. I started this quite a while ago, and I started it out with this Welch's fruit snacks box. And I use the standard process that I do to make covers when I use packaging from the kitchen or cereal boxes, things like that, because I prefer not to buy chipboard. Sometimes I double up the chipboard, or I may put multiple layers on the chipboard to make it more sturdy, because usually the packaging from the kitchen is a lightweight chipboard. So you'll see me do different techniques to make it thicker or more sturdy depending on what I'm using it for. So I've cut down my pieces, I trimmed off the excess, and I chose to cut the spine separately. A lot of times when you use a box, like a cereal box or this fruit snacks box, you would leave one of the sides intact as the spine. I prefer lately to cut that spine out or that side out and reattach it, leaving some space between. I feel like I get better results like that. And depending on my cover or the area around the spine, if I leave that piece attached, a lot of times it will cause cracking, and then I'll have to do other things to overcome that. So in an effort to avoid that, I have started cutting that panel and doing three separate pieces. So I have a front, back, and a spine, and I put those back together. So here I'm using masking tape to hold the pieces in place, and I'm filling in the gaps just a little bit. I have some Tyvek here that is from Amazon. I'll link to everything that I can link to. It will be listed in the description box below. And I'm using that to add a little more sturdiness to my spine and to make sure that the areas that are folding are reinforced and that they will hold up. I'm using a variety of different glues. Here I'm using Eileen's Tacky Glue. You'll see me using some PVA glue, a glue stick, Fabri-Tac, and I think I also use a little art glitter glue, and I use some double-sided tape. But here I kind of wrapped the Tyvek around the cover, and I'm using an old gift card to smooth everything down, make sure that the glue is spreaded. And I'm adding extra glue where I feel like I need some extra glue. Just making sure that the Tyvek is glued down well. Now here I have this piece of packing paper, and this is what I was mentioning earlier. I'm using the packing paper to somewhat reinforce the weight of this chipboard, also to cover the branding on the box. I don't do any sanding or anything like that. I haven't found that I necessarily need to, but because there is that glossy sheen on the outside of the box where the branding is, I am using a generous amount of PVA glue. My bottle is almost empty, so it's a little bit messy getting the PVA glue out. Then I am gluing my cover brand side down onto the packing paper and mitering my corners so that I can get nice folds on the corners. Then I'm going to go back with the PVA glue and my Dollar Tree makeup spatula to spread out the glue and complete the wrap. This is the first layer of wrap. I am going to come back and do another layer of wrapping for this cover. So again, I'm just using the gift card to smooth and spread the glue. And this layer is a little bit messy. Again, I'm at the end of the glue in my PVA glue bottle, so I'm switching back to the Eileen's Tacky Glue. And using the Dollar Tree spatula to spread it out once again. So I make sure my corners are nice and clean, and I have finished wrapping. As you can see, some of the moisture shows through from the generous amount of glue that I use, but that's okay. I just want to make sure that everything is glued down well. So while that layer for the cover is drying, I'm going to use some double-sided tape. I think this is a 1/4 inch, and attach 2 pieces of letter size 65-pound black cardstock together. And this will be my next layer for the cover. So I'm just lining those up and pulling the backing off of the double-sided tape. This is so that my paper will be large enough to cover the area that I need it to cover for the cover. How many times did I say cover? But yeah, so that's to make a big enough piece of cardstock. Here I'm using the Scotch Create glue stick to adhere the cover to the black cardstock. And I do one section at a time. And once again, I try to be generous with the glue. So here I'm using, I think this is 1 inch with double-sided tape I hauled some time ago from Joann, and I'm adding some tape on the sides that need it on the edge of the chipboard and on the edge of the cardstock, so that when I fold it over, any space in between those two will be caught with the tape on one or the other surface. And then on that one end, I didn't add any tape on the chipboard because there was no empty space there. So now that the glue stick has had some time to cure, I'm taking the gift card and making sure to get any air bubbles out. And here I'm mitering the corners of the black cardstock. And I'm removing the backing tape for the double-sided tape. Scoring around the edge of the cover. This is to help train the cardstock to be ready to fold over neatly. And then I use the momentum of the cover to fold the flap over to wrap the existing cover. So basically what's happening here is I've covered the fruit snacks box twice. Once with the packing paper, and here I'm doing the 65-pound black cardstock. Again, making sure to tuck in those corners so that we can have nice, clean corners. And usually when I wrap the book, I use double-sided tape and a wet glue of some sort. I didn't do it this time because of how many layers I'm working with here, and also because the 1 inch double-sided tape took up most of the space. Sometimes there's quite a bit of gap in between the tape and the chipboard, but in this instance there's very little gap. I think the double-sided tape covered everything. So here I'm just using the bone folder to make sure everything is creased down, burnishing and getting ready to fold the spine area. So here I'm carefully folding and creasing the spine, and this is the cover ready to be decorated. So for this journal, I am using a kit that is available in my Journal Life's Journey shop. It is called BOUDOIR. I think I did a flip through of it here on this channel. Either way, I will link to a flip through in the iCard up above, and I'll also put a link to this printable in the description box below. So I printed on 110-pound cardstock. I think it's Pen and Gear from Walmart. I printed some pages double-sided. I printed some single-sided. I've printed multiples. Usually when I'm doing a project like this, I print a lot and I try to give myself a variety of papers to choose from, but I also usually end up going back to print specific pages that I want to use. So in this case, I'm using more of a monochromatic neutral look for the inside cover. And I have 2 sheets of this design printed that I plan on using for the inside cover. I'm just trimming everything down to size and prepping it to be added to the inside cover. I think I was mentioning this earlier and I got sidetracked onto something else. But I trimmed down the original chipboards. I didn't use the original size of the box. I trimmed it down to work with some envelopes that I have that I think they're about 5 1/4 by 7 1/4 or something like that. They are made to hold 5 by 7 cards. And I wanted to use those envelopes as part of the pages and flips and inserts that will go in this journal. So I just wanted it to be slightly larger than 5 by 7. I'll put the measurements in the description box below. So here I'm just trying to decide how I am going to place the pages. And then I decided I wanted to have a piece of fabric for the inside spine. I don't have any black fabric, so I'm using this piece of cotton that I've torn down to size. And I'm just kind of dry fitting to see how I'm going to like it. I don't have any black fabric, but I do want something black in that spine area. So I am going to have to make my own. And I don't like just a flat color. I like a richer color. So when I'm doing things like this, you will see me use a variety of different colors as a base and then go in with my main color. What I did here was spray the fabric with water so that the inks that I'm spraying on top will absorb easier. I think I used some vintage photo, some walnut stain. I may have used some other color on this. I don't know. I was kind of just grabbing the darker colors that I had because I wanted a rich undertone. I didn't want just a flat, dull black. So I'm just spreading out the spray ink and making sure that the piece of fabric is saturated well. So right now I have a dark brown color and I don't want to waste any of that extra spray ink. So I have just taken some copy paper and I'm using it to mop up any excess ink, and I can use that page later for another project. So now I'm just using some matte black acrylic paint. I think I got this from Walmart for a few cents. And I've watered it down, and I'm just lightly adding it to the fabric. And I kind of just drag the fabric through the paint and the ink mixture on the glass. So I'm watering down some more, and I'm just adding and adding and adding until I get to the color that I want. So as you can see there, I showed it's still looking a little brown. So I'm going over again with another layer of the black. And I'm just working it, making sure I get the edges really well. And this is my final piece. So the back side still looks more brown, but the other side is dark enough. And so I'm going to use the Fabri-Tac to go ahead and glue this down. And I'm using my Dollar Tree spatula to spread the Fabri-Tac out a bit so that it doesn't seep through the fabric. And I'm adding the fabric on to the cover using my gift card to push it down into the folds. And checking the edges to make sure that they are glued in place. So now that the fabric is in place, I'm going to go ahead and trim down the inside cover mats and add those. And I'm inking the edges with Tim Holtz Distress ink in black soot. So I'm using a mixture of the Scotch Create glue stick and Fabri-Tac. I want to make sure that these inside mats stay in place. As I mentioned earlier, this project will probably be divided up into several videos, and I also may do a live stream here and there as I'm working on it. I prefer to do the live streams, but since I've already started working on this, I wanted to go ahead and edit the footage that I have and put that up for you. So here I'm just making sure that the cover still folds properly and that my frayed edges for the fabric is going to lay the way that I want it to. And now I am finding the center of the spine area because I'm going to add a couple of eyelets to it. I'm using a white Jelly Roll pen to mark where I want to punch the holes for the eyelets. And I'm doing that on the top and bottom of the cover. I'm using the We Are Memory Keepers eyelet setter to punch the holes. And here I'm just choosing my papers that I want to use for the cover. I'm using the full color version of the papers that I used on the inside. So I'm just trimming off the margin area. And I'm going to use my way of measuring to make sure that they fit in the space that I want them to fit on the outside cover. So I'm trimming the front and back matte papers here. I'm going to ink the edges of that as well. And from the offcuts, I'm going to cut a piece to cover the spine. And here I'm just marking on the back of the pieces to note which piece goes on what part of the cover. I'm clipping them in place for now, and then I will come back later and actually glue those in place. And then this is the inside cover. Make sure you are subscribed and have your notifications turned on so you don't miss the next videos for this project. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you may be interested in this other video. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.